Three, two, one. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Smile at the Chaos podcast. I am Anthony Drake, and with me today is
Blake Johnson. Nice to meet you all.
welcome to the show, Blake. On today's show, we will be talking about some movie news, and we also have our interview with our guest Trevor Dillon, where we will talk all things Frida, and he'll be joining us also for our throwback review of the Japanese horror film Hausu. You can find more about us and the show on Facebook, Instagram, and Letterboxd at the Frida Cinema or at Smile at the Chaos podcast. So Blake, we always like to kind of check in. Second episode, how are you doing? Still the same, better, worse, or the same?
I mean, there's only so much that can happen between
What's better?
Between weeks from what's
What's better, right?
Yeah, it's, weeks, the days, days go by. So I've just been watching a lot of movies. I know Avatar: Last Airbender is back on Netflix. I'm going to rewatch that.
Very good.
Right?
Very good.
Yeah, essentially that's, lounge on the couch, grocery shopping, stuff like that. How about you, man? What's been new since last week?
Not too much. Same old. Been trying to rent some more movies. Like I watched the new Capone movie with Tom Hardy, which I talked to you a little bit about before the show. Yeah. I would definitely recommend it. I think if it wasn't for us not having access to get to the theaters, I definitely think I wouldn't maybe be so eager to see this film. But since it was just a new film with Tom Hardy and Linda Cardellini and Kyle MacLachlan and Matt Dillon, I was like, yeah, he's in it. He plays like this weird doctor that you could tell it was like, I just need you to be a character from Twin Peaks for a second. Awesome. It was an awesome role. And then you have Peter Deming DPing the film, who had worked with Lynch. So it was a whole little, David Lynch kind of coaching tree, you could say, I guess, in the Capone. But yeah, I watched Capone. Been kind of watching a few series on Netflix, the new comedy specials, but not too much. I've been kind of just doing the same old stuff. It seems like these days kind of melt into each other.
Yeah, exactly.
So on today's show, like I mentioned before, we're going to talk to Trevor about our review of Hausu. But there's one thing that I have been doing. Haven't been doing it so much this week, but last week I've been going to this drive-in movie theater called Mission Tiki Drive-In in Montclair, Blake. And I was like, I found it on the website. They're still open. They also have a swap meet there, but the swap meet's closed due to COVID. But they have their drive-in theaters still open, and you pay $10 per person, and you get access to 2 movies, which is great. And they're playing current movies right now. I believe I saw Knives Out with The Hunt, which is a good pairing. And they have a bunch of stuff. They have family movies. So if you're really itching to get out of the house and you don't want to really necessarily be next to people, I would definitely recommend going to the Mission Tiki Drive-In. They kind of refresh the titles, I think, every 2 weeks. So this is the last week of the old titles. So I think next week, starting on Monday, they'll have some fresh titles. I don't know when this is going to come out, but 2 weeks from whenever you're looking at it, if you're looking at it, that's when they refresh the titles. But
awesome.
That's kind of pretty much one thing I just want to touch on. I think maybe some people will be interested in that. Not so much. Yeah, not so much. Let's see, a little bit of movie news. I know, Blake, you were talking about a Variety article, right?
Yeah,
for Tenant.
Yeah. So I was reading something last week about Christopher Nolan and Tenant, and sort of the future of theaters and how, because so many things have been pushed back lately. All the big Disney blockbusters, Mulan, the Eternals getting pushed back, the Fast and the Furious
again.
Yeah, right. So
it's the 5th or 6th time that movie's been
I know,
pushed.
man. I don't. I think at this point, what New Mutants is just dead. But so man, it's just essentially Christopher Nolan doesn't want to fall into that category of having his film be pushed back, and he's really fighting tooth and nail with these. Do you know what studio is producing it? I'm forgetting.
I believe it's Warner Brothers.
Okay, I can
double check. I believe it's Warner Brothers and yeah.
But yeah. So anyways, he's fighting with the studios and trying to get the
Yep,
release date because it's in July, mid-July, I think, is when the date is set.
27th. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think, man, if anyone's gonna like revitalize the theater experience and kind of get
Who
people
better?
going, I mean, who better to do it than Christopher Nolan? So I hope that I'm wishing him luck, fingers crossed. But it's because the COVID news is always changing, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I read somewhere that they're trying to extend the quarantine for another 3 months. So if that's the
Yeah.
case, and I don't know how that'll affect the Tenant release, but I'm happy that there's someone out there who wants to fight to keep the theaters open and to fight for his original release date. And
Yeah.
I mean, that would be a really solid movie to go back to, like after like.
Absolutely.
So I think that would be a really good like film to get people going again and to get people excited and people talking about movies again. So I think if all goes well, I can see that being a very positive change for things to come. But yeah,
Yeah, I
so I
definitely.
thought that was
I
an interesting
yeah,
article. Sorry, man, go ahead.
yeah. No, I definitely think that he's the right guy for. He's the right guy. I mean, having he's at the right time in his career with the right movie to kind of be the one to like push for the theaters to release his movie.
Yeah.
Uh, but we'll see. I mean, how desperate are movie theaters going to get? Are they going to get desperate enough to the point where they're going to be needing to put this movie in just to stay open? We don't know if there's going to be an AMC or a Regal
Yeah,
in a few
and I'd be
months
even
or
yeah, for sure. And I'd be even curious because all these things, so many films are getting their streaming debut, and
seems so odd.
I really can't see that happening for Tenet, but crazier things have happened. So, but that'd just be such a downer, having like opening release Tenet on your TV, like, oh man, that'd be such a shame.
I
But
know. It's just kind
we'll
of
see.
a that's what we keep saying, it just keeps like we say like we'll see, we'll see. And it's
Yeah.
like, you know,
That's all you can really do at this point is hope for the best. If not, shit sucks, but it is what it is. But so I thought that was an interesting read. It was on Variety. I'm sure if you just type in Tenet, Christopher Nolan, that article should come up because it is fairly recent. But I thought that was an interesting read.
yeah, I think it's like, I don't know how much he's actually fighting personally himself, like behind doors, but I imagine that Chris has had this in mind for a while, and you know, we'll be,
Yeah, and
I think
just
I think if the movie comes back into theaters, that will kind of maybe either allow all movie theaters to open to some capacity, or maybe it's something that they test out. They're like, oh no, we can't do this anymore.
no,
You know?
that's actually that's a good point because I can see theaters opening up with just that one film with just Tenet, and that's the only film that they'll be like selling tickets to, and maybe that'll just be all the auditoriums or like maybe half the auditoriums or something.
But if
But
you're Nolan, do you want to be the do you want to be the guinea pig? Do you want your film to be the guinea
right,
pig film?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, no, that's yeah, I don't know,
That's where I think he's trying to walk this fine line. But
yeah.
anyways, yeah. So those are like just some news stuff that we're talking about now. You guys check out Mission Tiki. Blake, 3, 2, 1. Okay, now we'd like to welcome on Trevor Dillon. He is the Frida Cinema programming director and also a filmmaker of Ghost Party Pictures, which is a production company that him and his friend run. They have some shorts up there on their website right now. So, Trevor, we'd like to welcome you onto the show. How you doing, dude?
What's up, Kings?
What's up, boy?
How you guys
How's
doing?
life? Is it lonely in there?
Yeah, I mean, you guys can see I'm actually at the Frida right now with my mask on, just hanging out in the actual auditorium because I had some work to do here, and I just like hanging out here, man. Like it sucks
I know
to
you
be here, but
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's just you and Logan, right? Just kind of kicking it around there, and Martin.
It's always just one person at a time. You know, we coordinate unless we're doing our 10-hour streamathon. We really are. It's always just one person at a time here. We wipe down everything after we leave. It's very clinical.
Yeah. So talk about so we had another 10-hour live stream last week, I believe, right? And you were the host again for the entire thing. How was it the second time around?
Yeah, so the first time I was the quote-unquote main host, and then Logan would actually hop in for an hour or so. He hopped in a couple times, and he was running the OBS and doing all the technical stuff. This time, Martin stepped in to do the technical stuff, and I hosted the entire thing. So it was like almost 10 unbroken hours of me sitting there and stuff like that. And we would play trailers every once in a while, and I'd like run off screen and grab like a bite of the salad that our creative director Jordan
keeping it classy.
Yeah, and this one was like taxing. Like 2 days later,
I could tell, Trevor. I check in every like hour or hour and a half, and I'm like, oh, Trevor's like barely hanging in there.
And it's like it's not like I'm like doing anything, and so like just sitting down, like it'll make you tired. Like not doing anything makes you tired.
Like I said, I think I said this in the first episode of the Blake. I was like, this quarantine has made doing nothing like not fun anymore and exhausting.
Like you just sit there and I'm doing nothing, but I feel so drained because I'm doing nothing. It sucks the life out of you.
Yeah, we don't have a date yet for the.
Yeah, go for it, Trevor.
We don't have a date for the third one yet, but Martin and I are already talking about how we're going to do a 30-minute chunk of just cardio in the middle where we just stand up.
Can we have Blake and I do some jazzercising, like some Richard Simmons jazzercising?
Yeah, I mean, we're like not even joking. We're going to be like, because I wear a suit, like kind of as a joke when I do the show.
And you'd be sweating through the suit.
Yeah. So I'll be wearing shorts, and then I'll just like take the suit off, and I'll have like a regular T-shirt on, and I'm not joking. We're literally gonna do 30 minutes of like exercise in the middle of the day. A, for us, and B, because it's funny, and C, because like I think it's a weird way to like funny. Yeah, exactly.
We need it. Yeah. How did have people been responding pretty well to the streams?
Yeah, so the first one I saw, we immediately uploaded it to YouTube, and it had like over 1,000 views, and we raised $2,600 on that one. And I think Logan said this on the show last week, but we had a $1,000 donor who matched the first 1,000 we raised, and he or she does not want to be named. But this one we raised, our goal was 1,000 because we never expect to have like someone who's going to be like, we'll match that 1,000. We raised over $1,000, and then like. That happened in like the last 30 seconds of the show. So it was like a really fun photo finish.
Wow, that's cool. Very cool.
I'm happy to hear that's doing well. That's awesome.
So before we went on our little break, if you want to call that, we had a very exciting few films programmed. We had the Neon Nightmare series that I believe was just starting. I think we had only shown Spring Breakers, correct? That was the only one. And Suspiria, I think, were the only two that we've shown. Are there any plans to bring those either back via streaming for people, or is there a plan to have those back at the Frida once we're open again?
Well, initially there was. Initially, we were thinking, maybe we'll be open in mid-May, and then we can just do the rest of March and the rest of May, or in April. I'm sorry, we were thinking, the initial reports were April, and I was basically like, oh, we'll just we will pick up where we left off, and at this point now, if it's going to be 4 or 5 or longer than that, months after the Neon Nightmare series, unfortunately I can't guarantee anymore. That I think that everyone will just kind of want to move on. There's going to be a lot of exciting new stuff that these smaller smaller distributors want to play, and I don't think we're gonna bring back those Neon Nightmare movies in that particular series. But those are movies that we would play anyway. Like we will play those movies, just not part of that series. Like you'll eventually see Neon Demon or Good Time or some of those other movies that we were going to play. Enter the Void. These are movies that play here like once a year anyway. So those will play.
Yeah, we'll be seeing them. We'll be seeing them coming back quite frequently. With that being said, is there anything that you're like very eager to is there anything you really want to like you're ready to program and you want the theater to open up again, or are you just kind of waiting to see because movies aren't theaters and distributors really haven't been saying too much except for delaying films, so
What's nice about that is that we do a lot of repertory. So, I have this idea, and Logan and I have been talking about it, about playing these movies that are kind of like Frida favorites when we get back, to kind of just ease people back into it. Because we don't know if we're going to only be allowed to play like to 50 people, or if we're going to be able to open fully to 200, or half 100. Doesn't matter. No matter how many people we can allow into the Frida, I want to play, your Mandys, your Donnie Darkos, The Shining,
exactly.
3, Hausu,
yeah.
Velvet, Scott Pilgrim, kind of like the stuff that like has always played really well here, and kind of feels like comfort food to people who are maybe like people who are nervous to come back to the movies. It's like, no, like come to your favorite theater and see that theater's favorite movie, something like that.
Yeah, that's good, man. That'll be definitely a good transition into normalcy, I guess, or at least the attempted normalcy.
And that's what Blake and I were talking about. What bigger theaters are going to do when we're talking about Chris Nolan, how he's been very strict about wanting Tenant to come out on the 27th. So I think like they're going to have there's going to have to be decisions made, but I think people at the end of the day are going to want to go to movies. I think, right? I feel like movie theaters are the one thing where if you limit the capacity, it's a very easy thing to control and clean. So I think that, hey, how about all that cleaning we did right before COVID? Isn't that kind of weird? I always thought about that, Trevor.
I will say that I walked into the theaters that we clean, like I'm standing in one right now, and they're still pretty clean, which is good. Like the cleanliness doesn't go away when no one's here. So like, they're perfectly well. So yeah, it was not all for naught.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It wasn't all for nothing. So you've also been working with our writing team, doing like some blogs and stuff like that. Is there any like blogs you want to highlight from a writer or two, or from yourself, that you think people should check out? Or
I mean, I'm gonna run through a few of them real quick. I'll just be really fast. So we've actually picked up last week a lot of guest writers. We have a core 5 or 6 writers on our writing team that you'll see their names on almost every blog that's written. You can go to the fridacinema.org and see their blogs. But we had 2 come in from guest writers this week. Michael Aguirre, who's a big Frida fan. He's here all the time. He wrote an article called "What Is Next? Reflections of the Film Industry," where he just kind of, in very blog form, kind of just goes through his thought process of what he thinks the movies are going to be and why he misses the movies. We had a come in for North by Northwest from a volunteer who's not even on our writing team, but it's Nick Datto. He wants to write about movies and stuff on our blog, and it's like, yeah, sure, man, go ahead. And he wrote a really nice North by Northwest review.
Awesome. I need to rewatch North by Northwest. I haven't seen it in a while.
Yeah, I just did a big Hitchcock rewatch. I watched like 10 of his films in North by Northwest.
I saw. Doesn't that? Yeah, I saw that you were rewatching all of them, and I always forget how long his filmography is, and like all the different years he's gone through, the decades and stuff. Yeah, so I'll have to rewatch that. Very cool. So, talk a little bit about the House blog, because I know you wrote a little bit about the Hausu blog after the director had passed. I believe, what was that, a few weeks ago or so?
Probably like a month and a half. I think Obayashi passed about a month ago.
Yeah. Time is so.
Oops.
Yeah, it's like
time feels like.
So... I don't even know.
April 10th.
That blog started with me gushing about the movie.
So let's talk about the movie. Let's talk about the movie first. First of all, we're gonna go into a little bit of a review right now of the 1977 Japanese film Hausu. Blake, do you want to like intro it? Maybe give a little bit of like a summary about what the movie is, and put it into your words how you can describe this.
Oh man, but that's like kind of the fun of the film, is like you can't really pigeonhole it to like one particular thing. Like, yeah, you can say like, oh, it's a film about a bunch of high schoolers visiting this, the main character's aunt at this abandoned house and ends up being haunted. Sure, that's a ghost story in the house, but it's so much more than that, and it's just like I can't get too much. I feel like we can get more into it with the review, but essentially it's just high school girls go to a house and shenanigans happen. That's essentially what I will say about it.
When was your first time you saw the film?
Oh man, it's funny because I was kind of thinking about it earlier this weekend. I think that's one of the longest Criterion Collection like physical Blu-rays I've had is House. I've had that for probably, I don't know, I think I bought it when it first came out. So,
And it's a very recognizable cover. If you've ever seen the DVD cover, it's very recognizable. You know, you have the red cover with the cat, and then the house on the bottom in the black writing.
Yeah. So shit, man, it must have been 2012, maybe the first time I've seen it, and I really don't know where I heard about it. It wasn't just like, oh, I didn't see it at some sort of theater. I didn't like hear about it from a friend. I do a lot of self-research, so I feel like this looks really cool and whack. I think the cover art kind of drew me to it. It just looked interesting. It was really vibrant. But no, I just kind of like, oh, this sounds really interesting. I like cult films and horror films, and I love Japanese cinema, so let's go for it. And it was so much more than I thought it could ever be.
Absolutely. Trevor, when did you first find House?
So I had the Criterion Blu-ray for a really long time and would watch it at home. But the way I found it is that
that's all. Everyone's watched it, but how did you find it?
When I really, this is kind of going to be like an existential thing, but when I really found the movie is when I was a volunteer at the Frida in 2017. We had started a Friday Night Freakout series presented by the now defunct and sorely missed OC Weekly. Aww. And I'm sort of just regurgitating stuff that I wrote in my blog, but we played it as like, I think we would El Topo, The Holy Mountain. Then the third movie we played was Hausu. That was the third Friday of that series. And I had seen it, like I said, but I had not seen it in a theater. So that's what I mean by existential. That means I had not seen it and discovered this particular movie. And I'm not being pretentious. I don't feel that way about all movies. But with Hausu, you have to watch it with the audience, because I kept walking in and there was like 80 people here, which at that time was a lot. Like I was like, oh my God, there's so many people here. And they were cracking up throughout the entire thing. And they were having a blast. And I even remember during one scene, almost like what people do during The Room, during the quote unquote like halftime break of The Room, like 15 or 20 people walked out front and like smoked a cigarette and then came back in. And I was like, it was like, this is like a cult classic, like a late night classic.
Yeah. So I remember seeing House. I remember hearing about House in film school. So I was a little bit later to hearing about it. And I just remember, you want to see the craziest acid trip movie, watch it. And that kind of got me hooked. And I remember watching it for the first time, and I was like, House is a perfect mix of being chaotic, but also being very calculated at the same time, and being able to like use both of those things to the advantage, which I think is like just something to say about Obayashi as a director, about how he was able to handle the craziness of this kind of film, but also able to balance it out into something that was like very good. At first I thought the coloring and like the effects, like how it looks like a collage, was ridiculous, but then it kind of grew on me a little bit as the film went on. Like, this is just what this film is, and I really loved it. And I think I've always been a sucker for films that accurately portray the world of dreams in a way. And to whatever like you think dreams are, or whatever you see dreams as, is completely different. But films like David Lynch's like entire filmography, for me, it captures like what dreams are and what they kind of feel like. And I think Hausu is like on that same length of how weird it is, but also feeling dreamlike, so it's kind of real. So as all those nightmares, and like I was watching it for the first time, I was like, this is like something I'd never experienced before. And I don't think it's something that we'll ever see or experience again, truly, you know?
Yeah, it also, I just saw it on 35 at Secret Movie Club at the $1 Million Theater, like a month before quarantine had broke out. And I was up north, and it was on a Sunday. I was coming back down, and I saw it was playing there, and I was like, we have to stop in LA and see this. And it's definitely the most directed movie of all time. Like literally,
absolutely.
Every setup, you can tell he's from a commercial background of just like, especially a Japanese commercial background.
Mm-hmm.
Every single setup is like directed differently. There's a different tone and like style to like almost every, not shot, but setup in the entire film. It's crazy.
Yeah, and as Anthony was sort of explaining, kind of, giving his sort of review of it, but I was just thinking about, because you get almost like that kind of weird melodrama, like with the stepmom too, and those sort of like those really interesting or melodramatic sets, and that like kind of like the wind is always blowing in her hair, and it's like the kind of emotional music, and it works on so many different levels. Like, it's just a hodgepodge of genre, and I love it.
Yeah, I think Obayashi said that he based it off of his daughter's actual nightmares. Was it?
Oh boy.
I'm reading something right now where in a documentary called Constructing the House, Obayashi explains that adults only think about things they understand. Everything stays on that boring human level, while children come up with things that cannot be explained. And that's definitely this movie, I would say. That's definitely a great way to explain Hausu.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My experience with it, both times I've seen parts of it on the big screen. So when it played at the Frida, when I actually sat down and watched it at the $1 Million Theater with Secret Movie Club, both of those experiences probably rank in my top 10 like movie experiences, which is really nuts for a singular movie.
Exactly, and especially one that's so kind of out there. But I love everything about it: the severed hands and the legs, the fish, the flesh-eating piano. I think when I saw that piano, that was one of those things I just kind of was like, this is just on a different level. But anything else, Blake, you'd want to add about Hausu? We just want to talk about a little bit because I know Trevor had written that really good blog, and we wanted to have you on. We wanted to have you on a little bit sooner, but things just didn't time out right. So having you on now, we just wanted to talk about House for just.
I feel like we should all just like maybe talk about a favorite scene or two, because I feel like so many people have so many different favorite scenes or like segments in this movie because there's so many to choose from. They're all so fucking good.
I mean.
So, if whoever wants to start, I would just like, because I know obviously I know you both love the film, but I would like to know like what scene stands out to you more than maybe some other scenes.
So I love the scenes like with there's like this really crazy thing, like in The Shining, how they're at the hotel, kind of like in the house, they're at the house. And then, like in The Shining, Scatman Crothers is coming up to the hotel, so they keep cutting back to him. There's the scene in Hausu where they cut to, I'm sorry, I don't remember what the character is. It might be the uncle or something, and he's like on his way to the house, and then he stops to have noodles, and like there's like the bear and the noodle bar.
Yep.
That scene stands out in a movie like that's truly insane. That scene truly stands out as I do not understand what is happening in this scene, and like it's really impressive to pile on top of the movie Hausu.
And it's funny though, cause that scene comes like kind of like later in the film, like almost towards the end of it, and you're like, how can you top how insane this movie has been so far? And he just finds a way to go about it.
Yeah, I mean the structure is another weird thing about Hausu. Is like and you're like, oh, is the movie over? It's like an hour and 10 minutes into it, and it's like, no, there's like 20 more minutes of the movie. like somebody else comes to the house, and you're like, wait, what? Like, what a weird way to do this.
Oh, that's a good one. What about you, AJ?
I love the grandfather clock stuff with the bloody corpse. So that's like one image I'll never be able to get out of my head, I think, when I see a movie. And that I think that's just like one of those things that sticks out. It's just like, obviously, like I talked about, like the fingers on the piano, that stuff like creeped me out a lot. I wonder how I think this film will change, how I'll like this film as I get older, because I feel like it's a film where it's like I may watch it in like 10 or 20 years and be like, what, may give me some like, I don't know. I feel like it's a film that can give you a lot of different things. You can get a lot out of it.
Yeah.
You can get a lot out of it.
Oh man. Okay. Shoot, man, I got a few. Like Trevor's scene was up there for me, so I'll use a couple other ones, but the one that Trevor mentioned is really iconic, I think. But I love the one towards the end where everyone's kind of like going everyone's going crazy, and they're aware of what's happening. They're trying to escape, and I think like Kung Fu is like trying to do this flying judo kick thing, and the lamp ends up eating her. Then like her severed leg fall out of her body, and like like continues the kick, and it's like the cat picture or something. Oh my god, love it. So that one really just the insanity of that, and just like what he does like visually with like with the color and just like all this, like it's just insane. So that one really stands out to me. And then I love this scene where I think when they first arrive at the house, I think Mac is the first one who gets sort of killed, and Fantasy is kind of looking for Mac, and then the aunt is like, you see the eyeball in like the aunt's mouth, and it goes in like this weird sort of like montage of like the dancing skeleton, the cat on the piano going up and down the piano, and the weird little cat
weird. So weird.
Like, I love that too. That's like it's amazing. Like it's so good. It's so good.
It says here that Obayashi's daughter has a writing credit.
Ah.
So that's interesting.
I want to give an honorable mention to the scene where I think it happens at the same place. No, it happens at the house at the bottom of the hill for the house. So it's the watermelon scene. There's a scene with like watermelon, right?
Oh my god!
For some reason, I'm attracted to the scenes that don't even take place at the house. It's like when we leave the insanity house, somehow we go to something more insane. Like that's such a weird movie.
Do you think that was his? I don't know if that was maybe Obayashi's intention.
No. I think it was just having to top, every scene has to be crazier than the next. But it's like, you think he would have saved the craziest stuff happening at the house. But he's like, no, even with the house, the world is just as insane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's not. Exactly. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. The watermelon one's pretty great. But you're right. No, it does. As things progress, things like scenes top each other, and it's almost like it's almost like a game. Like you're just leveling up, and like each as you're progressing through the movie, it just gets crazier and crazier and gets even more. Oh boy.
The ultimate preteen fantasy, I think.
Yeah, that's a good way to go about it.
Right, Hausu,
Man, have you guys seen his short film Emotion?
Obayashi?
Out of curiosity.
No.
Oh, that one's also very. I think if you own the Blu-ray, Trevor, I know that's one of the special features on it, or the supplements or whatever. But it's like a 45-minute short film. It almost feels like a Guy Madden movie. Kind of stop motion-y, and it's about like a vampire in love, and it's just also totally insane, but very well made. Sure. That's a good watch.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, I like that one. I like it. It definitely doesn't hold a candle to Hausu, but it's still a entertaining kind of getting to delve more into his, technical style and kind of more one of his other stories. So I think it's good to get more of a view of who he is as a director besides just Hausu, but right. I like it.
Hausu is just a classic. That's one of those films where
I feel like it's almost like one of those, like, if that was the only thing he ever directed ever, like, how
it'd be fine.
It would have been totally fine.
Yeah, right.
I remember one movie.
I think it's the Chapman. Is there a Chapman class that comes in and watches movies? I think sometimes in an auditorium, and I think the professor was showing them Hausu, and I had asked the kids before walking into the theater. I was volunteering that day. They said, "Oh," I asked them, I was like, "Have you guys seen Hausu?" And then I'm like, "Oh no, I haven't seen Hausu. I haven't seen it." So I was just like, okay, and I went in and just would kind of watch their reactions, and like you'd expect they kind of go crazy, and then walking out, they're like, I've never seen anything like that. So it's one of those kind of movies. We'll put that on the letterbox, and Trevor, before we let you go, is there anything else you'd recommend people to check out? I know you've been watching a lot of movies with your at-home film festival, which seems to be going very well. I'm waiting for you to hit like when are you going to stop? Is there a number, or are you just going to keep going?
Yeah, no, I mean, I've just been kind of logging movies. Really, I'm only on movie 70, and we've been in this. That's like barely one a day. It's like
seems a lot, though.
It's a lot of movies, but it's because I'll go a couple days without watching a movie, and then I'll sit down one day and watch like 4 movies. Yeah. Yeah.
Trevor, I think there was a day where Trevor said, I think you sat and watched like all Lord of the Rings. I was like, oh, Trevor's carving out some serious time today.
That's a good day, though. That's a great day.
I went up to my brother's cabin in Big Bear by myself. Well, I mean, me and my girlfriend and our 2 dogs, we went up there, and we were there for 2 weeks. We were there for a long time, and one of the days I watched Lord of the Rings one of the days, and it was awesome. Like, it had been a while. That's one of my favorite things we do here at the theater is our Lord of the Rings marathon in September. So,
you're not recommending Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, that's the best.
So everyone just rewatch Lord of the Rings. Just that's the assignment.
I went through a noir phase here because I finally got Criterion Channel. I got 3 months of that for free, so I'm definitely wearing that out. And I watched a bunch of noir. I watched Deerskin off of our site, the Frida Cinema. I really enjoyed Deerskin.
Yeah, because I was really interested in watching that before all this started happening, and I was gonna ask if someone has seen it. So I'm glad. So you would recommend it?
Yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot more than Rubber, and it has an awesome cast, so that goes a long way. But I won't say any of the noir stuff. That was cool. Noir's all over the place. You can watch whatever noir you want. I watched a new film from Jeremy Gardner, who made a movie called The Battery. It was called After Midnight, starring Jeremy Gardner and Bria Grant. That movie was like really
After Midnight's kick-ass.
That movie's weird, like truly to the core weird, like really original and super independent. And like if like you're a young filmmaker who wants an example of like what can be made, that's original and interesting. After Midnight is like a creature feature rom-com. It's not so much com, but creature feature rom, definitely. I'll watch some comfort food stuff sometimes late at night after I've watched two other like kind of more difficult movies. I watched Stagecoach and The Lady Bandicoot.
Nice.
Those are some of my favorite movies. But the one I want to recommend is from 1980. It's a John McKenzie movie. Everyone knows who John McKenzie is. I didn't know who that was. I had to look it up. But it's a movie. It's a British crime thriller called The Long Good Friday. Have you guys seen this?
Oh my God, no! I actually own that. I still have yet to watch it though, but I do own it.
Yeah, it's one of those movies that I've been putting off for so long seeing it, and then I saw it was on Criterion, and I don't know anybody who's seen it, which is really weird because it's known as like one of the best British movies ever made. And like I said, John McKenzie directed it. Bob Hoskins, that was his big breakout, and he's like unbelievable. He's like Ben Kingsley in Sexy Beast good. He's like so good.
Okay.
And he's like this like you know how Tom Hardy will do that like Cockney British gangster thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he just watched The Long Good Friday and just saw Hoskins and was like, "This, I'm gonna build my entire career on this dude."
And Bob Hoskins. Bob Hoskins is Helen Mirren's in that too, I believe, right?
She's like a 35-year-old Helen Mirren's in it, and then a really young Pierce Brosnan. It's really good and it has an awesome score. But I will say it's pretty violent. Like if you're not ready for it, especially a movie that's turning 40 this year, like it was pretty. One scene in particular was like, oh damn, that's like too violent.
Really?
Yeah, it like really got me. I was like, oh, that's very visceral for this gangster movie. But yeah, it's pretty. I won't say it's by the numbers. I'm obviously recommending it. It's fairly by the numbers, but it's really well written and acted. You know what? It reminded me of Hell or High Water, that movie that came out.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I love Hell or High Water.
Where it's like super well written, super well acted, but the direction is not like blowing you away.
It's just doing the job.
Yeah, it's just good enough. You know, it's like it's like Sicario has obviously great acting and then great writing, same writer, and then it has Denis Villeneuve directing it. So you're like, okay, this is a great movie. So they didn't. I don't know. I don't know John McKenzie's background, but he did a fine job, and this is a really. It's one of the best movies I've seen recently. Because it was
dry. Like, is there? How dry is it?
Yeah, it's pretty dry. It's it really could have stood to have a little bit of comedy or levity to it, but it was I mean Hoskins just like full like bulldog mode the whole time. It's
that's awesome. He comes from he was an assistant director for Ken Loach.
Okay.
Oh really? No.
He was understudy of Ken Loach. He looked like he was a assistant director on productions such as Up and Up the Junction and Kathy Come Home, before working as an independent director and doing his own things. It looks like he has a few films with like Danny Oyelowo and Charles Bronson. So it looks like he makes his ways with those out. But yeah, I'm definitely going to check out The Long Goodbye. Where did you watch it, Trevor?
It was on Criterion. It's not The Long Goodbye. That's an Altman film. This is
The Long Good Friday.
Long Good Friday. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's a bunch of titles like that. It's like, I wish it had I bet, you know what? I bet it would be more popular if it had a better title.
Yeah, that's
Long Good Friday is like a very clunky. It's a very clunky title.
Yeah, I remember seeing it in a book when I was a little younger. I've always tell people this, but I got into movies when I was like 18, so like 10 years ago. And I remember the first thing I did was buy one of those books. It's like 1,000 movies you should see before you die.
Yes.
And it was in that book, and I didn't watch it.
You watched it. Well, you just watched it now, so you're 10 years caught up.
Yeah, there you go. That's
right here.
Yeah.
The book every movie fan, every movie lover has.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, and like I didn't have any appreciation for Hoskins back then, but like I do now. And then it's like, shit, I hadn't even seen his best performance. Like this is his best performance.
All right. Yeah, I have the Arrow Blu-ray. I think that's a imported Region B one though, but I do have it, so I'll definitely put that on this weekend now. Now that you've kind of inspired me to check it out and finally watch it.
Yeah, so we'll put that on the letterbox so people can see it. And Trevor Trevor, you want to follow the letterbox? I believe it's Frida Cinema Podcast. Blake is the name of the.
Yeah, no, I think
It keeps changing around a bit because we haven't got like a good name for it yet, but it's gonna be something like that, Frida Cinema Podcast, or like something along those lines. So check that on there. But before we let you go, Trevor, where could people find more out about you if they're interested in finding anything about you, or about, for the most part, people know about finding stuff about the Frida, but what about you?
I'm on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Trevor Dills. Pretty easy. You can go to ghostpartypictures.com to check out what I'm up to as a filmmaker. Not much right now, can't really do anything in production, but I've been writing like hell. I've written 5 features this year. My writing partner and I have written 5 features and pitch books, and like we're just like really working, putting in the work. I'm really proud of us.
That's right. And it's what you got to do now, though, right? What else? Now is the time to make that feature or write that story you want to do. Now's the time for it. So
yeah, I mean, there's really no excuse. And so it's like our goal this year was to write 6 features and pitch books, and it's like that's a pretty lofty goal. Now it's like, shoot, we might surpass that goal. So check that out, ghostpartypictures.com. You can follow us at Ghost Party Pictures. I'm gonna start up a podcast here pretty soon.
Awesome. There we go. Another one.
Adam, no, this is the first one I'm ever really gonna commit to, but it's with
with Adam. Yeah, I think Christina was telling me about that actually.
Yeah, we haven't really announced yet, but it's going to be called Palm Diorks, and like Palm Dorks.
Nice.
And it's going to be this insanely dumb thing where we go like from 1955 to 2019, and we go through all of the Palme d'Or winners. And I'm really excited about that because he came on the Streamathon and quizzed me on Palme d'Or winners for the past 5 years, and I only knew 20 of them. Just he had to give me hints, and I only got 20 of them right. So there's just these movies that like won this massively prestigious award that I have some of them I'd never heard of. So I'm like, Adam, we need to go through, and this is a terrible idea, and most good podcasts are based on terrible ideas, and we got to watch these movies, and so we're gonna watch them, and I don't know, we'll be launching that soon.
That'll be a lot of fun. Do you want to talk about maybe an event we have coming up at the Frida?
Yeah, so
or with the Frida.
Yeah, so something that we've been really trying to work on is drive-in movies, and I can safely say this because I know this is coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday. That we are announcing today. We're recording this on Saturday. That we're going to be playing The Princess Bride as a drive-in.
Awesome.
The Muckenthaler Center in Fullerton. We're only allowing 100 cars to this first one. It's going to be $20 a car. And if tickets are still available by the time this podcast comes out, they'll be at thefridacinema.org. I think we're going to sell this thing out really quickly, but if not, get those tickets so we can keep doing drive-ins. I was telling Anthony and Blake before we did this, is like, we're not doing these drive-ins to get rich. We're doing this because we want families to be able to go out and watch movies still. I know drive-ins are hot right now, but maybe in the future, once we don't have to do drive-ins anymore, hopefully we'll be able to continue doing outdoor screenings, and we'd love to do them at the Muckenthaler, and we're really, really excited about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's all labor love. All labor love.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's something I think that perfect movie, I think, to show. Couldn't be more happy for all of us getting something to do for the Frida and get people out there. Again, it's not, maybe we all thought we'd be back together at the Frida, but for now, I think this will be something that'll be very fun for people to do. Trevor, we appreciate your time. Hopefully we'll talk to you soon. We'll work on some like guests. If you have someone in mind, you think, I'm gonna try to have on like Sean and Issa and all those other, have all those bloggers on and just kind of talk to them and see, just see what they want to talk about. Because really, we're just kind of, Blake and I are just kind of like keeping it very open as far as what we're talking about. We like to have you and Logan on to kind of keep like people updated as far as Frida stuff goes.
Cool.
But yeah, we appreciate you coming on, dude. And Blake, any other last things for Trevor or no?
Oh man, I appreciate your time, and I'm glad we were able to. I mean, it's been a very long time since I feel like I've had a conversation with you, so it's just nice to catch up, honestly. Yeah. So no, yeah, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to do this, and thank you for talking about a film that we all really, really enjoy. That was.
All right, and we'd like to thank Trevor Dillon for coming on the show and discussing a little bit of everything, a little Frida stuff, a little house review, little bit of what he's been watching and his recommendation, which will be on our letterbox. So now we'll get into this week's recommendations. Blake, what are you recommending people to watch this week?
Yeah, so for this week, I'll be recommending one of my personal favorite films, definitely in my top 25. It's this 1964 French film, French musical to be a little more precise, but it's by Jacques Demy, who was Agnes Varda's husband, and the film is called The Umbrellas of Cherbourg, and it's just a beautiful, one of my favorite uses of Technicolor in film. Just everything, like the sets and the costume design and the colors, like so deeply saturated. Everything looks so beautiful. The score by Michel Legrand and the music is just out of this world. It's so beautifully composed. Catherine, I think this is one of the first major roles that Catherine Deneuve was in, and she's fantastic in the film, and as well as everybody else. But it's just a very bittersweet romance story where kind of like young love, that kind of first young love, and you're going like, I'm going to be with this person forever, and you're planning out your ideas for marriage and all that fun stuff. And then this is set during the Algerian War, so the main character, or the guy character, Guy, his name is G in French, he gets drafted for the Algerian War, and then things happen, and it's very, very sad, but sad how real life is sad. So it's a very fantastical film because it is a musical, but Demy's screenwriting is he throws a lot of realism, like brutal realism in there. So it's certain things will happen in the story and you'll be like, whoa, I was not expecting that from this kind of film. But it's just a very beautiful film. It's one of my comfort movies, and I know you can watch it on the Criterion channel for those who have a subscription for that. But I know you can pretty much rent it on Amazon or iTunes or whatever too. But that film is a very special place in my heart, and I definitely recommend it.
Awesome. You'll be putting, and like every week you'll be seeing on
Letterboxd. I'll link it. I've written a couple reviews on Letterboxd for the film too, so I might link those as well if people want to hear more of my thoughts on the film. But going to you, Mr. Anthony, what do you recommend for these fine folks today?
So this week I'm gonna recommend Yorgos Lanthimos's The Killing of a Sacred Deer, which I just recently rewatched on Amazon Prime. I believe it's also streaming on Netflix as well. But this was a film that I hadn't seen in a while and rewatched it again. And I had been catching up with a lot of Yorgos's work. I had rewatched The Lobster, which is like one of my favorite movies ever. So funny. And then this movie is so dark and chilling. And he crafted a very good like thriller with very unsettling humor that seems to follow him wherever he goes in all of his films. He kind of uses that Greek tragedy and existential horror to his ability in this film, with all of the dollies and the zooms, with everything in this movie. It's just a very disturbing movie to watch. Makes you feel very uncomfortable. It has a great cast with Nicole Kidman and Colin Farrell. And it was one of those movies that I just like. It's one of those movies where it's like, I don't want to watch this movie right now, but something keeps pulling me in, almost like a Hitchcock movie. And I think that's what Yorgos was kind of going for with Killing of a Sacred Deer. And it definitely, I think this film, before he did The Favorite, I think this film makes him a world-class auteur and heavy force in the world of filmmaking for the next however many years. I think he's one of the better. I think he's one of the more creative and better directors that we have working.
Oh, definitely.
Working today.
He's such a much needed idiosyncratic voice. And I just his stuff is so great.
Yeah, so that was all for this episode. To find more episodes or anything else about the show, go to the Frida Cinema website or the YouTube channel. And like always, we'd like you guys, if it doesn't cause you any financial hardship, to please donate to the Frida Cinema if you can at the website. I thank Blake for joining me today. You can catch him on Letting Go 555 and on Letting Go 666 on Letterboxd and Instagram. And that's it for today's show. Thank you, Blake, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yep. Thank you, Anthony. Everyone have a good one. Later.